Dr. Philip McWally in 1989 created the world's fastest computer, which performs at 3.1 billion calculations per second. Through computational science, Dr. Philip has also found ways to make the oil field more productive. His computers are now used to help predict the effects of future global warming and to forecast the weather.
Like so many boys growing up in the 1950s, George Carruthers dreamed of the stars.
My interest in space science and astronomy came about by reading science fiction comic books. Of course, that was long before there was a space program, so people weren't really overly enthusiastic, including my relatives, about my interest in astronomy. I was really interested in space from the engineering point of view, having read about it in Wernher von Braun's publication.
At the Naval Research Laboratory, Carruthers launched his career investigating far ultraviolet astronomy.
One of the projects that I came to do was to look for molecular hydrogen in interstellar space, which could be detected only by the use of ultraviolet spectroscopy.
The discovery of this interstellar gas yielded insight into how stars form. Applying his engineering expertise, Carruthers next developed a far ultraviolet spectrograph camera, which in 1972 traveled to the moon on the Apollo 16 mission.
This was the first time that the Earth had been photographed from a distance in ultraviolet light so that you could see the full extent of the hydrogen atmosphere, the polar auroras, and what we call the tropical air glow belt.
Today, that camera still stands. Since then, the instrument has imaged a comet from Skylab and flown on several shuttle missions. This pioneering space scientist remains devoted to helping the next generation realize their dreams.
Super Soaker was accidentally created by an engineer at NASA? Lonnie Johnson was born in Mobile, Alabama in 1949 to a truck driver and part-time nurse's aide. He and his brothers would spend summers on his grandfather's farm while his parents picked cotton to make some extra money. They created their own toys out of junkyard scraps. He once made a go-kart with a motor from a lawnmower and even created rocket fuel out of household ingredients, a failed experiment that ended in a large kitchen explosion. His curiosity earned him the nickname the Professor, and his inventions took him all the way to the National Science Competition in Alabama, where Johnson presented his remote-controlled robot named Linux, a robot built from scraps, his brother's walkie-talkie, and his sister's reel-to-reel tape recorder. Johnson was the only black student present and left with the pride of winning first prize. When he reached high school, the eager inventor took a career placement test that claimed he had little aptitude for engineering. He wondered if race was a factor in his results, but didn't let that stop him. Johnson went on to graduate from Tuskegee University with 2 back-to-back degrees in mechanical engineering and nuclear engineering. This led him to work on projects all over the nation, like the U.S. Air Force stealth bomber, NASA's Saturn Cassini mission, and the Galileo mission to Jupiter and its moons. Even as his career blossomed as an engineer, his passion for creating didn't stop. Every night after work, Johnson would head down to his basement and work on new inventions. One day, while attempting to create an environmentally friendly heat pump, the engineer took some tubing, attached a nozzle to the other end, and connected it to the bathroom sink. Water shot out of the nozzle and across the room, and the Super Soaker was born. His children and friends soon became his focus group. He would show it off at work functions and military picnics. The cheaply made water guns of the time didn't stand a chance against his highly sophisticated invention. Johnson secured a patent and signed a deal with a major toy company. It took less than a year for the Super Soaker to become a hit. Years later, the high-pressure water gun is still popular, with many different versions now on the market, which has driven over $1 billion in sales. It was a toy of the decade back in the 90s and continues to be a summer favorite today.
Lisa's resume is possibly the most impressive thing you've ever seen. From 1995 to 2000, her manicured hands helped birth Shockwave, a tech platform used for building interactive multimedia applications, web animation, and video games. Without Shockwave, there'd be no streaming or sanity for the digitally savvy. 7 years later, Lisa joined Hulu to help launch the streaming service as a member of the senior management team. Y'all, the woman helped start Hulu. She then went on to run BET Digital until eventually becoming Chief Digital Service Officer in the Obama administration's Department of Education. No matter how amazing Lisa is, she is still Black and a woman in tech, which means she's faced her fair share of racism and sexism. But that hasn't stopped Lisa from gaining a seat at the table. In fact, she's created her own seat at her own table. By co-founding Techquitable, a website and app that aims to make companies more inclusive by allowing employees to confidentially discuss workplace complaints and receive assistance on how to address these issues. In this age of Me Too, Techquitable is necessary. Lisa Golobter is committed to using technology as a means to help improve and heal the world. What a queen.
weren't for Louis Latimer, we may still be writing letters by candlelight. Latimer was an inventor and draftsman in the 1800s who worked on patents for the telephone and invented an improvement to the light bulb. Latimer started off in a patent law firm. His drawing skills earned him a promotion to head draftsman, where he worked on the patent designs for different projects, including several of his own, like an early version of the coat rack and improvements to the elevator. He also helped others get their groundbreaking inventions out the door. Alexander Graham Bell, inventor of the telephone, sought Latimer's help to get his patent application submitted. Years later, Latimer was hired by an electric company owned by a rival of Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. Latimer was able to improve the light bulb, making it longer lasting, less expensive, and more accessible to the average person. In 1881, he traveled to several cities to oversee the installation of streetlights. He later worked with Thomas Edison's company as the only African American on Edison's elite engineering team. Throughout his life, Latimer worked on various patents and inventions. His goal was to improve the everyday lives of people. And by looking at his body of work, it's clear that he did.
What's driven my research and inventing is curiosity, 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 curiosity. How do things work? Why do things work? Why is it possible to do some things and not others?
Despite his parents' hope he would go to college and study medicine, James West wanted physics and went to work as a summer intern at Bell Labs. West joined Bell Labs full-time in 1957. And by 1962, he and a colleague, Gerhard Sessler, had patented a revolutionary new electret microphone technology. 90% of today's microphones are based on this technology. 2 billion are produced yearly for phones, hearing aids, camcorders, and computers. Electret microphone technology is also used to combat sound in active noise control systems. It is helping to reduce noise in airplanes and in hazardous situations where emergency personnel need to communicate clearly. After nearly 40 years at Bell Labs, Dr. West joined the faculty of the Johns Hopkins University.
Retirement has never been in the picture for me so far, primarily because I enjoy what I do, and going to work is truly a pleasure. I collaborate with people in materials engineering and chemistry and optics and a number of other divisions, including work at Johns Hopkins Hospital.
Jim West has had a great impact on an entire generation of scientists, especially young and minority researchers. And in fact, James West has touched all of our lives.
Inspired by her personal security risk of coming home alone after working odd hours of the day and night as a nurse, she created an early closed-circuit television system to be used for home monitoring. Truly a first of its kind, her security system and its patent is the forerunner of all advanced home security technology in use today, making it safe for all to protect their homes. Her original invention, was comprised of peepholes, a motorized camera, monitors, a two-way microphone, and a remote control operated door. The final element was an alarm button that could be pressed to connect to the police immediately. Recipient of a National Scientist Committee Award, Marie Van Britten Brown, genius.